Hey guys, Jeff here at MACkite.
And I'm Tucker.
And we're going to have a little discussion here about adding, we've kind of bounced around a couple different words, add a little flavor to your wave riding.
Energize your wave experience.
Energize your wave, maybe the music that's going on in your head, tuning it up a little bit, some decimals. But now to put some context to this, I feel this video is a little bit more for those that have been riding waves for a while. You've had some downwinders, you've ridden swell, you might have even ridden some breaking waves. You feel like, you can go long periods of time connecting waves, you're riding 30, 40 minutes, and I'm not implying here that would be boring at some point, but from my own personal experience, I'm in year 2 of really just chasing waves, riding waves all the time. And we're going to kind of break down a little bit. What does it mean to kind of add a little more flavor to that experience? In my context, I was just excited to read a wave when you're on a swell out there and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And to get on and ride it and you're like, holy cow. I've been like 20, 30 seconds, haven't had to grab the wing. It's just sitting back here and
it's not to minimize that. It's awesome, but you can also get kind of locked in that mode, right?
Yep.
Where you're having a good time, but not leveling up your riding skills or your experience in any way. You're not testing yourself. You're just enjoying the float, enjoying the glide. And you can get kind of stale or stagnant. It's kind of like what's like the Greek myth thing where like they're with the sirens and they're like life wafts away because they're like enjoying just being and chilling so much. Anyway, I digress.
That's
but
okay.
It's kind of like that, man. Don't waste your life just gliding straight. Let's break out of it, man. Let's push our limits a little bit. Assuming you have the physical ability and do it safely, of course. But I want to encourage everybody to break out of the luff, break out of the glide,
and just pump into the next wave and going straight down the line.
Let's go into something a bit more exciting. Maybe you've done a few turns where your wings have breached the surface and you can kind of recover from that, or you're making some tighter turns in the pocket, or even venturing into the forbidden breaking wave zone where there's some consequence. Where do you go from there and make it less stale, I guess, is really what we're going at with this video. And what are the possibilities?
I think it's a good discussion. I think we have quite a few of us, me included, where you've kind of, I wouldn't say mastered, but you're riding the wave. You're riding down the line, you're poaching, pumping out to another wave, and you're doing that, but how can you add some spice, add some flavor to riding the wave that you're on? Yeah. One word I think comes to mind we haven't talked about too is speed. How can you manage and keep the speed and start to be a little more carvy?
Yeah,
cutting back on waves, and adding some style to your ride.
That's a good point. Just riding faster, being mindful of riding faster can really level up your experience and help you level up your riding ability, because you have to deal with that speed and you have to make more technical, difficult turns in more critical ways. So that's a great point. First point, ride a little faster.
Yeah.
As a first small baby step, that is a great thing. If the waves are a little bigger, don't ride your normal big foil. Maybe size down a little bit if you have one, or just ride a little faster on purpose. Focus on building speed, building momentum, and finding those spots in the waves that have more push that will give you that boost. And then what do you do with that, right? Because once you get that boost, you have that speed, you can either run out the shoulder and barrel dodge.
Or down in the pit and get away from it.
Whatever, and now I'm in the flats, and what do? Well, you should have turned back and done a nice roundhouse cutback back there, but it's too late for that now. So, do you pump over here and wrap around, or where's it going? You got to open your head, open your vision a little bit and see what's out there, and have some of those tricks in your brain where it's not just doing this all the time, right?
Or just this.
Yeah, do a little bit of this
into here.
Or a little bit of that.
Not to imply that that's not good riding or fun riding, but we're trying to look at ways of spicing it up. I think what you said really hit with me is, when I first started riding more powerful waves, one of two things happened. One, I started getting so much speed I didn't know what to do. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do because I'm just used to just
freaking out. Hold the nose down.
Yeah. I was thinking autopilot. Just I'm on the wave riding it like I normally would. But when you get more power, you got to start thinking ahead more. Because next thing you know, you're at the bottom where there's no power anymore.
Lift up that head and look around a little bit. Yeah.
Or you're going to ride it out and you're thankful that you're riding out the pitch of the wave to get away from it.
Yeah.
So what we're saying, instead of getting away from it, start looking around and thinking, maybe start cutting back. And
come back to that power zone and come across the lip. Maybe come under the foam. Come in front of the wave, or you can take that speed you built and wrap it behind the wave to the one behind it or two behind it. You know, coming off a wave with speed, you have a lot of options. If you run all the way out to the shoulder, start to slow down, and then you're looking, too late.
Too late.
Yeah, game over. So, you know, opening up your vision more. Are you going to wrap that thing back around and hit the wave behind it? Are you going to pump back out and find a bigger one and wrap back in? You know, making those decisions before that time comes is big. So just keep your head up, keep it on a swivel. What are you going to do with that speed? And once you have that speed, you know how to control it. It's pretty easy. Just got to look around and decide what you want to do with it, and have it back in the back of your mind that, hey, I can do that, or here's what I want to do with that speed. Because if you wait till the moment, you know, thinking creatively in the moment like that is a hard thing to do, and you're going to end up waiting a little too long.
Yeah, and you got to swallow some pride. I mean,
You're going to take some falls.
you're
It's
gonna
okay. It's
take
part of the
some
fun.
falls. You're not going to look quite as good and maybe be in the water more than you want to.
Yeah.
Speaking from some personal experience, if I try to step up my wave riding, it's kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think you said it well with the foil size, sizing down, which is something that's helped me on bigger waves. You know, where I used to ride more 900, 800, I'm dropping down to 600, 700.
And to help yourself out, hold on to that big wing a little longer. You know, if on your big 1,000 foil you're stepping down to a 4 meter, you know, at 18, maybe hold on to it till you're at 22, you know, or whatever it might be for you. Having a bit more power will make your life a lot easier to get that quick boost, or you know, to get you up on foil on that smaller foil.
Yeah.
When otherwise it might be difficult.
So the two things that I'm hearing too, from my experience and hearing you talk too, is not be afraid of getting more speed, and starting to think ahead.
Yeah.
You know, looking ahead at what your next move's going to be versus just riding out and pumping straight to another one, making that turn, and starting to leverage and look around to what the possibilities are on there.
Yeah.
Something we haven't
Watch some pro surfers, watch some really good foilers. You'll see them do some cool things where you're like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that before. But like, instead of going like this, he did one of these.
Couple things to think about though that I think in my progression in wave riding is, one, where's my wing and how can I use my wing in those situations to either get in my way or to help me in there. And the other thing that I'm thinking about, and that is my stance. So, you know, as I've progressed as a rider, I've gotten more of a closer stance just because I feel like I have more control and delicate balance over the foil to make it do what it needs to do when it wants to, for pumping or just maneuverability. So I have more of an upward stance. I'm not saying I'm right here, but as I've gotten into some bigger waves, I'm finding that I'm having to think a little bit more about my stance on the board and how I weight the board. What do you? I know you're a few notches ahead of me in that progression.
Yeah.
So what is my mindset heading in the right direction or not necessarily?
Yeah, I think yes and no. I think stance a lot of times depends on your personal preference, how you like to be over your feet, but also the foil you're riding. Generally, the higher aspect foil you're riding, the narrower your stance gets. The shorter your fuselage is, the narrower your stance gets because it's more twitchy, so you don't want all that leverage. That being said, if you're really ripping a wave, sometimes a slightly wider stance can be helpful. You gain more leverage over the foil. Also, a lower, more bent knees is naturally going to bring a wider stance. And sometimes, especially when you're riding really fast, having kind of a bent knee, it's hard to show right now.
No, I know what you're saying.
Like a forward stance like that can help drive forward and put some pressure on the front foot without committing too hard to that front foot pressure. Because if you get to the bottom of the wave and you hit that pit, it's going to want to do one of these. So if you have too much weight forward now, then it's going to just ditch the nose. But so yeah, I think you're onto something there with certain foils. Definitely narrower stance is good. It frees up your hips more, especially in like rolling swell and not breaking swell, where you're not making those hard banking turns. When you're doing more of the directional type turns, it's in the hips, so narrower stance helps with that. If you have your stance way here, wide cowboy stance, like you're riding a 3,000-pound cow, your hips don't move.
Yeah,
It's
harder to put input
when
it's way out here and way back here. So yeah, I think that does make sense to me what you're saying. I think some of it's skill driven too, what your skill set is. But I think bending the knees a little bit more. So I think
move your feet actively is what I would say. Okay. It's not necessarily that it's always a narrower stance. On a higher aspect foil, narrower stance a lot of times makes sense. on a thinner, faster cadence pumping foil, a narrower stance makes a lot of sense for that. But also, when you go to rip a back cut turn or a front side kind of cut back turn, dropping that back foot is a lot of times going to be a good thing to do. Just give you more leverage over the pitch of the foil, because once you roll over, now you're pitching the nose up in the turn. That's your turning radius. So having more leverage into that to push harder into it can force that into a harder turn. And we're getting maybe more technical than we need to here, but also the offset of your stance over the stringer, depending on how wide your span is. The wider the span, the wider your offset should be, in my opinion.
I think this is a good conversation though, because just to say, spice up your wave riding, try some turns, go faster.
Yeah, try something new. I mean, you're welcome.
You got to have a little bit of adjustment and think about what are some things you need to think about when you do that. You know, because I'll be transparent. When I first started riding bigger waves, I mean, it can be intense, dude. It's intimidating. You know, when you see a YouTube video, you watch a video, it looks so flowy and surreal and easy.
Yeah, and the waves you're watching are usually bigger than they look too, because the camera's flat.
Yeah, but when you're dropping in on a wave, and you know, I feel like I'm a pretty decent wave rider, and all of a sudden the speed goes up a few more notches than I'm used to.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm feeling like, whoa.
Now you're riding on the edge.
Yes, and then you say, now I add some spice. You know, I may try to add some style. So that might be a good spot to lead into. What are some ways that style? One of the ways I started doing that is just getting a little lower and maybe dropping the wing a little lower. You know, some of this is personal. You know, you have your personal
you can
style.
hand drag on the lip.
Yeah,
you can stand up a little tall and chill and just kind of glide it out like that.
Yeah,
those are some cool ways to do it.
Yeah, and you got to find your own style.
It's an individual thing, but I think for me, you know, in foiling, like the epitome of style is drawing creative lines. It's not just about, hey, can you do that turn and do this and this turning radius and throw the most spray or whatever. I mean, lots of people can do that. It's cool, but when somebody does something I haven't seen before in terms of the lines they're drawing on the waves, that's when I get excited, and that's what fires my brain up, where I'm like, oh man, I should try that. I should learn that. And one thing that I would say that does that is, rather than going into a wave all the time in a jibe, go into the wave and attack. So come across here, backside up the face of the wave and wrap it back, almost like a skimboarder would, or even toe side if you're driving out this way. Bring it out here, carve into the wave, upwind, over here, or pulling it behind you here. That is one of the coolest things you can do. It's not that hard.
Behind your back.
If you know how to tack and you haven't done a tack into a wave face yet, do it. You can learn it on small waves. You can do it without a breaking wave. It's a challenge, and it's fun, and it feels like the greatest thing you've ever done when you nail one smooth.
And it adds a little style.
Totally, lots of style. Your friends are gonna be like, "That was different. That was crazy."
Something that just came to my mind. I mean, I'm at the stage too of, you have to kind of get your body ready for what it means to have style on a wave, meaning relax a little bit.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, so.
Doing one of these,
there's not going to be a lot of style, and your carves are going to be. But what I started to do, which helped me, is like relaxing my upper body and actually putting the wing behind my back.
Yeah.
And you can kind of go down the wave and just kind of.
Yeah, if the wind direction allows for it, if your wave allows for it,
that's adding a little style though, a little style.
Definitely, and it's going to open you up to be able to view the whole face of the wave. If you keep passing behind your hand, behind your back, and you can view the whole wave. It's a lot more like prone. Or downwind riding, you get a lot better view, and you're not held back by the wing in your way when you're trying to do this and that and that and that, and it's easier to do this.
Well, from pistol grip to holding the handle, it's a subtle adjustment.
Yeah.
When I open myself up and put it right behind me, when the wind and the wave are right for that, it does add a little style, and it opens things up a little bit. Just the way your body is looking at the wave.
I'll add a next level pro tip on that one. In small waves, if you get into doing that, it's fun to flip the wing behind you like a bat wing.
Oh yes.
So you kind of backwind into it and then put that strut behind your back, and now you've got like a spinnaker that's pushing you downwind. So that's kind of fun. You can do a couple little pumps and glide on some swell if you have enough wind at your back and the waves really aren't doing much. That's kind of a fun little trick that you can do. So that's sort of a circus trick. It's not very stylish, but it's kind of neat.
Well, for waves that are
And
more
it's
like
a progression towards some other things we're going to talk about here in the video, using the wing more actively.
yeah. So that would be good, you know, and even taking like what might seem like a boring swell and adding a little flavor.
Yeah, it makes it challenging, and like, okay, now I want to bring it back out in front of me. What do I do? How do I do this? Where's my leash where I can pull this thing out in front of me now? And you know, you learn to do those things, and it compounds and it builds where, okay, I learned to do that, and now I can learn to backwind, and now I'm riding backwind on the downwind side of the wing. And okay, that's kind of a cool party trick, but what does that do for you in the waves? Well, now you can backwind looking down the line on the swell, building speed, and hit that lip here, and then bring the wing over your head. And that's one of those things we're going to get into now, where it's like that small skill set allows you to make that maneuver, allows you to come in and make that unique line and build speed on the wave, and then have that quick release point coming off the lip. And that's another exciting kind of neat way to use the wing in a practical way, but that's also stylish.
Yeah, before you go to that way, I feel like we're just scratching the surface. I know we're not going to touch them all in this video, but one that I saw a local rider, one of our ambassadors, Nate, he would put his front leg down, like really low. I mean, actually his back knee down low, and just kind of bring the which look kind of cool and
do a little fake barrel, get a little head dip in there. Yeah,
even though you're not on a barrel wing, but you're on a barrel wave.
Oh, it's totally fun. Yeah, you get down, get a little hand drag on it.
Yeah,
super fun.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a head turner. All the guys are like, whoa, what are you doing? It's the same little wave where you would have just been standing there. It just adds that little flavor, you know, to
something
the game.
new to do. It's a new challenge for sure.
But
maybe more fun and less stylish in that point when there's
goofy.
Then there's no wall on the wave.
Well, you got to practice
Fake
with
a barrel.
Practice with the smaller waves before you just put yourself into trouble zone.
Totally. Yeah, it's good stuff.
But I think you were heading off into another direction with how to use the wing as your.
Yeah, and I think that's my big encouragement for everybody that finds their wave riding maybe is a bit stagnant, and it's something you can do in any conditions. It doesn't matter if it's knee-high, inland lake chop, or a wakeboard wake that you're following behind with your wing, or a big, overhead swell or rolling swell. Maybe don't try it this first time in breaking, macking swell, but go to the outside where it's rolling and play there. But and you can practice for this even when there's flat water. And that's to use your wing to make creative lines and to draw new lines on the wave and do things that you can't when you're just flagging it. So I think a lot of wave riders get stuck in that point. I've heard it time and time again from people over the phone where you're like, oh yeah, you're wave riding, yeah, it's my main focus. I just use the wing to get on the wave, and the wing is just there.
Yeah, it's done.
And I get that. I mean, that's a fine way to ride. It's cool. But taking your riding beyond that and looking at the wing as you have this thing in your hand, why not utilize it? You can build speed. You can use it to carry your weight. You can use it to grab leverage in a turn. You can use it to jump over a bad section or a scary wave that's coming your way. So there's a lot of ways to utilize the wing more actively than just using it as a toe-in system and then hanging on to it.
I like that.
When you're just hanging on to it, it's just there. It's not doing anything. It's more of a liability than an exciting thing. Mm-hmm. For those people that aren't interested in using the wing actively, you might as well be pair winging, because there's no huge advantage to a wing at that point.
True.
So.
And that's where a lot of people are getting excited about being hands-free, right?
And that's exciting. Don't get me wrong. But if you have the wing in your hands, you might as well utilize it. And it really allows your average everyday conditions to get leveled up. It's the same way where I used to be a surfer, and I look at foiling and I'm like, man, foiling is so much more exciting in a crappy day. Mm-hmm. It's so much more fun. You can actually get your heart rate up and do fun things and ride fast. Same thing with the wing. If you use that wing to amplify your speed, use it to draw new lines, use it to approach the wave in different ways, or just do things that you ordinarily couldn't with the wing, not in your hand, then you're not just a prone rider with a wing in your hand. Yeah. Now you're a winger or using more actively, kind of like a windsurf sail would be. Yeah. So that's a great place to draw inspiration. Look at some of the windsurfers riding waves. What are they doing with them? Mm-hmm. Using it to float over sections, kind of jump over bad areas, build speed, build leverage in a downturn.
Oh yeah, where you bring the wing down.
Yes, you can do the same thing with the wing, right? Just turn it down a little bit and do one of these, and it kind of slingshots you out of that bottom turn. Same thing you can do with the wing. You can use that wing up high, almost like a jump. Let it carry your weight through the foam ball. If you're hitting the lip, that's really going to help you.
I have done before. You can use lift with it to help you as you.
Yeah, going to make your way through the chaos.
Yeah.
Or even just to jump over a scary wave that's about to bulldoze you on the inside. Those are ways to use the wing. One I would say that's most practical is just learn to leverage the wing into a turn. A lot of people, they're learning to jibe and they go, okay, I'm going to jibe, and they drop their backhand and then they start to turn downwind. Stop doing that. Just hang on to the backhand, pull it in, and windsurfing, you call it throwing the clue. All right, you all windsurfer folk will remember this. So you use it to slingshot you downwind. So you're actually pulling harder on that back hand as you start to aim downwind. That slingshots you and helps you amplify that speed. It also leverages the foil. So you can actually grab that wind and use it almost like a pole. You're like wrapping your arm around to.
I've done that with my jives to gain speed, to just rip off a wave and come in.
So you can practice it even just a flat water jibe.
Versus dumping the power and just putting it up over your head.
Do it there. Use that then to slingshot your way into waves. You can come over the back of a wave and come down the face with some speed. That's going to allow you to boost your speed. If you're kind of need to beat a section, you can do one of these and come down the line fast and get that slingshot effect down the wave. And then, on the opposite side, obviously, you can do the same thing. Bring it over here and pulling that wrap around.
We may have to catch some
to gain some of that speed and to get it to pull you through the end of the turn when normally you hit that kind of bottom section and sort of flatten out and lose some of that momentum. Just find new ways to use the wave. We mentioned earlier backwinding. You can backwind now into a swell. If you got a wave here and the wind here, you now backwind, find that section and throw it up over your head and wrap around that cutback. It's one of my favorite things to do using the wing. And it's just a really fun way to approach the wave without being all wrapped up here. And it also gives you a full view down the line, of what's going on of the wave.
You're making my mind kind of think a little bit more, because you're kind of taking us to a different level of getting creative, thinking ahead. Things that I would normally do on flat water when I'm practicing different tricks.
Exactly.
Start
you
doing
hone the skills on flat water.
On the wave.
And then you bring it into the wave. Just like, hey, you can go throw a railie in flat water. Now you can go throw a railie off the lip and land back in the lip.
Or land back
Greatest feeling. It's just awesome. And I'm not crazy about freestyle, but those always feel really cool. Make you feel like a pro surfer when you're not.
Well, and we are leveling up our discussion here on the flavors that we can push ourselves. And this all depends on your skill. It could start as much as just where you place the wing when you're riding a wave and maybe your stance. And it's subtle changes that do spice up your wave riding. I know from personal experience. So just this typical straight up and down, chill.
Yeah, if you're a wave rider and there's no waves, don't sit on the beach, man. Go out there and hone some skills, learn some new things that maybe you can bring into the waves later. Because if you don't hone those skills on the crap days, like, you're never going to learn it in the swell.
Well, and it's kind of taking the elements of freestyle and using those light wind days to practice some of your wing tricks. I call it like water ballet. And then bringing that to your wave riding is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, and there's a million things,
This is a conversation we really haven't had up until just now.
Yeah, you can do a 360, backwind 360. You can do that same thing in the waves and use it to transition between waves. It's really fun. It's really stylish. It keeps your momentum moving.
How about
you can do the Heineken jibe thing as a way to get into the wave. You can walk the dog.
I did it by accident for a few times. I'm on the wave.
Me too. Dropping like, oh crap.
So, but you do it a couple times and you actually let it out and let it just sit out there. And you just kind of bring it in.
Some of the lighter wings will fly pretty good for you. Yeah, you can hang on to it about halfway up the leash.
It adds a different experience.
Does one of these. Yeah. Maybe not too performance-y, but it's kind of like the yo-yo tricks. You can.
It's all about adding flavor and a little different feeling, right?
Yeah. Hey, bringing me back to the elementary days of the yo-yo tricks, Doug.
Our owner was a...
No, we don't bring that up anymore.
Quite the yo-yo specialist, so yo-yoing on the waves. But no, I think, Tucker, you've kind of made me think a little bit more of what can I do? What can I begin to prepare for as I look at my next wave session? Just instead of just doing the traditional flag out, pistol grip, straight down the line.
Yeah, don't wait for the conditions to improve just so you can do your normal run-of-the-mill small wave stuff on bigger waves. I mean, that's cool. It levels up your performance, but find ways to make the everydays exciting and challenging and learn something new, I think, is the moral of the story here. And there's some ways you can do that.
Yeah, and I think we're talking to people that have been riding waves for a while. and are ready to, step it up a little bit. If you're like any of us that are in adrenaline sports, you do get used to things. At first, what used to be like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, I wouldn't say it dies off, but it doesn't get quite as exciting. That's kind of where I'm at.
You want to make your life really exciting the next small wave day, Jeff?
All right.
Ride everything on natural stance.
There you go.
I know you're ambidextrous, so you can probably do it no problem, but it's always something I play around with. I try to like pump, and it's like, whoa, this is alien.
One of my wing guys I ride with a lot, Tony, he does that. He says, you got to ride your weak side on the wave. Try all that. Try riding a different way.
It's fun. It's hard.
It completely opens up things again. And the keen eye, people that see that go, wow, you can ride both ways, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can do it okay. I can survive waves on my offset stance.
Find a weak spot with
but
you?
Man, yeah, don't expect me to be doing any
right.
wraparound foam hit
with
type
your weak side?
on my weak side.
All right.
I maybe should focus on that more. It's fun stuff.
No, I think this is a good discussion. I think, we obviously didn't cover it all, but I think what the theme is you've been riding waves for a while. Why don't you think about adding some flavor?
Spice it up, take your everyday up a notch.
Yeah, adding some speed, thinking ahead. Looking at how you can bring the wing, what you do in the flat water, into your wave riding, some of your freestyle into your wave riding. Just kind of get out of your comfort zone.
Let me tell you this. If you're not falling, you're not learning.
You know what? There is a guy that worked here that was a kiter, Ricky Bobby. No.
Yeah.
Bob Rick said, if you're not wet, you're not trying, you're not getting any better.
I was all about that too in kiting, man. I was in the water more than I was out when I was doing that, and
that's the only way to get
admittedly, I get a little stagnant sometimes. Winging, just enjoying the float, enjoying the glide, connecting swell. Just being out there, but got to force yourself out of your comfort zone from time to time.
So much so that your deck of your board gets dry and your feet are dry. Then it's time to.
Yeah. For me, if my hair is getting in my face and it's all dry.
No, I'm being serious.
You got to have that hair wet, man. You got to crash enough to keep the hair wet.
But in Michigan, we've had some cold water, so I don't like to. I didn't want to fall out lately. But when it gets warmer, I'm gonna start throwing some of these in. But anyways, a good discussion.
Yeah.
Kind of push the envelope, push the needle. Those of you who've been riding for a while, kind of mix it up.
Yeah, I know some of our customers got some cool ideas on some new stuff they've been working on. So jump in here, guys.
Throw it in the chat.
Throw it in the chat so everybody can see it. I know we didn't hit every single
we just scratched the surface.
Potential cool thing we can do here, but jump in there and figure that stuff out, and let's all level up together and start to form what is the future of wing foiling.
I like it. Maybe we can get some drone footage, some pictures of even old men like me trying some new things on waves.
Can't wait.
All right, man.
Watch out, guys. Jeff's coming for you.
Enjoy the stoke.